Are there unintended consequences when we overuse the safety rules for firearms handling? Let's talk about that. Welcome to the Patriot Training YouTube channel. My name is Clay Howell. I'm the owner and head firearms instructor at Patriot Training. The purpose of this video is to ask the question and dig into the topic of the safety rules of firearms handling. Can they be overused? Can they be misinterpreted? And if so, how? Well, as you might guess, anything can be misinterpreted, anything can be misused, and the safety rules are no different. I was speaking with a friend recently, and he said that they kept all guns in the house unloaded, and even his father had great difficulty switching over to the concept of concealed carry, and he did as well, because the gun needs to be unloaded when it's not in use. And the first thing is we must ask is, where did this come from? And it came from the NRA 3 safety rules. These rules have been around since the 1800s, and Colonel Cooper further revised them, but Colonel Cooper's 4 safety rules are simply a restatement of the NRA 3 safety rules. The NRA 3 safety rules, first rule, is keeping your gun pointed in the safest possible direction at all times, never covering something you do not wish to destroy. The second rule is trigger discipline. Keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on target and you've made the conscious decision to fire. The third rule of safety, according to the NRA, is that guns should be kept unloaded until they are ready to be used. And this is the rule that causes confusion with people. So the Cooper 4, always treat all guns as if they're loaded. That's a good rule, and how do you do that? Well, you keep it pointed in a safe direction, and you keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on target and you're ready to fire. That's Cooper rules 1, 2, and 3. And the pointing rule is so important that he restates it. Be aware of your target, what's behind it, beside it, and between you and the target. And I call the pointing rule, I call that the golden rule of firearms safety. That is the one that supersedes all others. If you keep that gun pointed in the safest possible direction at all times, it's really, really hard for negative things to happen. And the backup to that is finger. If you keep your finger off the trigger, it is much, much less likely for that gun to be discharged. The vast majority of negligent discharges I've witnessed, heard of, or seen, or read about have been because somebody touched the trigger. When you read a newspaper article and it said the gun went off, I can assure you that person pulled the trigger. 99 times out of 100 guaranteed. That said, the rule, the NRA rule that Cooper did not articulate on, and that I believe has caused the most confusion in the world, is to keep the guns unloaded until they are in use. How is that the case? Well, it sounds logical to keep a gun unloaded until it's in use. However, somebody might say, well, Clay, that Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 that you wear on your hip every day, is that loaded? Of course it is. And they say, well, that's not following NRA rule number 3. And I say, I must differ with you, my friend, that your statement is not accurate. If I'm carrying a gun and my particular handgun holds 15 plus 1, and I've got it loaded with 15 plus 1, if you think that while that gun is on my body, that is breaking the NRA's 3rd rule of keeping guns unloaded until they are in use, then you simply have to stop, allow yourself to take in one sentence of new information. And that sentence is, the gun is in use, comma, however, it's not being shot right now. And that's it. The gun is in use. It's in use for self-defense. I'm simply choosing not to shoot it right now. And that's the funny thing. As the great Tom Givens says, getting into a gunfight, the other guy decides when and where, and he usually only tells you at the last second. So the point of that is, I carry my gun ready to use at all times so that when that bad guy makes that foolish decision, I can be prepared. So the gun is in constant use, it's just not being constantly shot. There's a difference between constant use and constantly shooting. You must be intelligent enough to understand that difference. It's in use, it's just not being shot. The NRA rule does not say to keep the gun unloaded while you're not shooting it. That is not the case at all. What about my gun for home defense? I have a loaded shotgun, I have a loaded rifle, I have a loaded handgun, all for self-defense, staged at different points in my house. How is that not violating the NRA safety rule number 3 of keeping the gun unloaded until it's in use? My friends, it's the same reason. Those guns are in use. They are simply not being shot at this moment. Well, that's my take. What's yours? I must remind you, you don't have to be a patriot to train, but you do have to train if you want to be a patriot. Take care.